This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the How Not to Make a Movie podcast, horror stories from the movie-making trenches. My name is Alan Katz.
I'm Gil Adler's worthy partner.
More than worthy partner. And today we're going to talk about writing funny. Now,
that's a joke.
It is. It's funny when I know the bulk of my, if you go to the IMDb and you look at me, it's mostly horror. And now there's a lot of horror on Gil's IMDb page too. But the bizarre thing is, neither of us came into this business looking for horror. A horror ultimately stalked us. We should get a restraining order. Maybe it's a little late. But when I first met you, Gil, the script that my agent, Carol Yumkus, at the William Morris Agency at the time that she was sending around was called it was called Down to Earth.
Right.
That's right. And then I jumped ahead. It was called Down to Earth. And yep. I guess you liked it enough to want to have a conversation, but it was a total comedy.
See, now you're telling me it was a comedy. I read it and I thought it was a horror.
Oh no, I've gone and ruined everything. Oh no.
All these years later, you find out what really is.
Now the thing is, it's funny. I'm trying to remember when I knew this detail about you. The first show I ever saw in New York City, because my family used to go to New York City every Thanksgiving, and we'd see a show. And the first year that we ever did that, we saw this show at the Mercer Art Center called El Grande De Coca Cola.
What was that? Who? What?
El Grande De Coca Cola.
Oh, that show.
And the irony of ironies, years and years later, when my creative partner, Gil Adler, was you were the producer.
Yeah.
Of El Grande De Coca Cola.
Yeah, we found that. We went to Edinburgh with a play, and while there, we saw Coca-Cola. And
you went there. You went there with the play. What play did you go to Edinburgh with?
I went there with a play by Jack Gelber, and a three-character play. And we took it to Edinburgh. And while there, the press secretary for Mayor Lindsay, that's how far back we go.
Oh wow!
Said to us, you should see this. It's crazy. It's not in English. It's in 5 languages. You're going to love it. It's hilariously funny. And so we went to it. And of course, in Scotland, they have 24/7 during the theater festival. So we went to see it in a warehouse, a little garage at 9 o'clock in the morning. Not the best time to see a comedy. And so I watched it and I really wanted to like it because I was told it was so good. And maybe this is something I could bring to New York, which would be my first play in New York. And I was just listening very carefully going, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Maybe not. Oh, that's funny. And so the people who did the play were watching me because there were only like 5 people in the audience.
Oh, geez.
And they, at the end of the show, they went backstage and they said he hated it. He didn't crack a smile once. Meantime, I was so nervous about wanting to like it and realizing how much I liked it that I was analyzing, well, how can I bring it to New York and how do I get people? And so when I met them, they said, look, you don't have to say anything more. You didn't like it. Okay. And I said, no, I want to bring it to New York. I want you to come to New York in 8 weeks. I'm going to bring you to New York.
That's funny.
That's how it started.
Yeah,
and we went to the Mercer Art Center, and then from the Mercer Art Center, when that burned down and fell down, that building, the Broadway Central Hotel.
Let's go back to El Grande, because what was really funny about it was that the entire show is in gibberish.
Well, you could think it's gibberish. I thought it was, every word was a gem.
truly, but it's in a kind of gibberish.
Yeah, it's sort of like it pays homage, I think, to Sid Caesar and what he did with, Italian and German and French.
Yeah. I mean, there's a semblance of language.
Although a lot of what we said was actual real language, was Spanish.
Yes. Yeah.
So gibberish, it was not totally, but it was sort of, we pigeon Spanish and pigeon French. and to a degree so that as an English speaking audience, you would get it and you would understand it. And you actually walked out of the show thinking, gee, I didn't realize I could speak French and German and Italian.
And gibberish.
Yeah.
More importantly, but that was part of what made it so exciting and funny.
Yeah, and it was just very, very different because nobody except Sid Caesar had really done it before us. But I think, you know, with our guest today, we should probably bring him in. And,
We probably should, because we could go on and on and on.
yeah, we could talk about Coca-Cola at some other episode, or maybe a whole episode by itself if the audience would like to hear that. But we should bring in Dave Brecher, our friend and comedy writer.
So Dave, in keeping with our theme today, yeah, Dave is a comedy writer, and among the things that we'll talk about, well, how you met Dave doing comedy. Let me get Dave in the room. Hey,
There he is.
Hello.
hey, Dave.
Hey. How are you?
It's a pleasure for me to meet you. You and Gil go back a bit.
I don't quite.
Let's start there. All right. How did you and Gil encounter each other? You go first, Dave.
Well, as I recall, I was on tour with a little independent act named Bette Midler. Might have heard of her. I don't know. She's been around.
What were you and what were you doing as part of this touring monstrosity?
What wasn't I doing at that point? I believe I was the writer's assistant, is what I was credited as. A gentleman by the name of Eric Kornfeld, who was a up and coming comedian in the 80s, and he got a big break on Bette's touring roster. And I toured around with him, and he took a liking to me, and I really knew very little about Bette beyond being forced to watch Beaches by several an ex-girlfriend in high school, and an occasional boogie woogie bugle boy belted out by my parents, but beyond that, all I knew was very infantile dad humor, and and that's what I contributed, I think, to the tour. So I helped him out, and in the end, during the actual show, I ended up running her teleprompter, which she relied on very heavily. Yeah, and I ended up after that tour making a business out of it, because how are you gonna make it in this industry without some cash flow?
Now, let me just ask a few questions just so we set the scene. So Gil, you are in Sydney making Superman. You are producing Superman.
Yes.
And this is the one starring Brandon Roush.
Yeah,
Brandon
Ralph. Yeah.
No, okay. So all right. And at the same time, suddenly, Dave, you are in Sydney. You are touring with Bette Midler as the guy who does everything but gets no credit for it.
Oh, it's very less than credit, if it's possible.
They were sucking credit out of you.
Bette took a liking to me, so that's she was like my surrogate grandma at that point. So she treated me very well. So I can't really say anything bad about her.
Nothing wrong with that. We worked with her husband. He directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt.
He did. Yeah. That's right. Yes, that's how we met. Jason knew that her husband, Jason, Ryan's assistant, knew that her husband directed an episode and thought that you two would.
Martin Van Hasselberg.
Yeah, Martin. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, my recollection was a little different, but yours is the right one.
Well, I want to hear what your recollection is, because
my recollection is a little different. 5 years before that, I was in Brisbane. I was in the Gold Coast shooting a movie called The Ghost Ship.
Yes.
And Bette was going to be doing a concert in Brisbane. And when I heard about this, I was like, oh, I really want to go. I really want to go. Mm-hmm. Now, a story that I don't even know if I've ever told you. when I was first starting out in this business in New York, and I didn't know what to do or how to get to first base or do anything, somebody said to me, you know, you really need to meet talent. You really need to get to know talent.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but how do you do that? I know how to do that. And they said, well, there's this thing going on. I don't know if you want to go to it or not, because it's a gay place, and it's called the Continental Baths in the Ansonia Hotel.
Oh, right.
So, and they said, well, I said, well, what's there? And they said, well, there's this woman, a young girl who's singing and a great accompanist. And I said, well, you think I should? Yeah, you should go. You should go.
Literally one girl in that place.
Right. So I went there. I was probably the only straight guy in the place. And I would stand. And in those days, I was very quiet, very introverted. I didn't really talk to anybody. You never even knew I was there, even in the room. So I was in the back, and I was watching this young woman, Bette Midler, with her accompanist, do all these great numbers. I'm like sitting there going,
Manilow. Was it
wow, I gotta meet these people. So I first met the accompanist and became kind of chummy with him in my introverted way, you know. And he was Barry Manilow. Although for me, he was only Manilow, because everyone called him Manilow. And I didn't even know his first name, like for
one in the corner.
So, and then I met Bette.
Yeah.
Okay, so now cut to, I want to go see this. I want to see her in Brisbane, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, you know, I really want to say hello, but I don't even think she'll remember who I am, because I was very quiet, and I was, you know, there's nothing to remember. I wasn't somebody that you would remember. So anyway, I went backstage after the show. And
you were probably one of the only fully clothed people.
Oh, totally.
So maybe she would have remembered that. Yeah.
So I went up to her and I said, I'm sure you don't have any clue who I am, but let me tell you a story. And I told her the story, and she said, you know, now I don't know if this is true or not. You looked familiar to me. I didn't know where I know you from, but now that you tell me this story, yeah, it might be from that. So and that's when I thought I met you, but we didn't meet till probably 5 years later in Sydney when Superman Returns.
Yeah, right. Coincidentally, that's exactly what Bette says to me every time she sees me. You know, I sort of remember you. You're vaguely familiar.
Right.
No, she's great. She's amazing, and she always has been amazing, and she really helped me. You know, build my life to where it is now. So I wish I were around during those periods. I think I might have been an infant when you know, Plato's Retreat and those types of places were. Right. What is it? The Continental bathhouses, right? Isn't that where she?
Bath in the Ansonia Hotel, I think it was.
Yeah, no, I was. It was. It was a little too young.
All right, so you did some writing for Bette.
I did. I helped. I would say I aided the main writer. You know, punch up scripts. That's right. Really
so. And when, especially when the job is punching up a script, the goal is, hey, the job is make it funnier than it is.
It's arguably harder than writing the script. Especially my God. There are a lot of egos involved in comedy, as I'm sure you are well aware. So to take somebody's material and say, wait a minute, let's put this twist on it is like a death. It's a small death. It's like, you know, telling a person, yeah, I really like that haircut, but I think maybe you should have taken a little more off the top. Nobody wants to.
But telling anyone who believes comedy is their life that I can do it funnier. I mean, that's
already in the. You
might as well kill them.
Nobody's funnier than you.
Yeah,
but you know what? One thing, seriously, for just 1 second, you know, comedy is very subjective. So what I think is funny, you don't have to think is funny, and what you think is funny, maybe somebody else doesn't think is funny. And it's all of a sudden thinking to myself, well, how do I rewrite someone's work without being offensive and making it heightening the humor, heightening the comedy? And I think that's the real task. I think We got to get beyond the ego, which is sometimes impossible,
Yeah.
and deal with the subjectivity of what's funny for a major portion of the audience.
Right. Well, yeah, therein lies the issue.
Yeah.
Not only figuring out what's funny for yourself, which rarely is what the audience finds funny, but also finding what the audience at large will find funny.
In the
yet,
face of the subjectivity of it all, because as you said, Gil, you know, it is an entirely subjective thing. Hey, there are people who think Jerry Lewis movies are funny.
And yet, really, the only way it seems to me, Dave, the only way it seems to me to approach it is by what you think is funny and feeling that more people will think it's funny as well. Because if you try to second guess, it's like trying to second guess a script that, you know, oh, it's a successful movie today, so we're going to make something like that. And 2 years from now, the whole world has changed and no one's interested in it.
Right. Which is, yeah, it's enough to make all of your hair fall out at once. It's it's a difficult task. I mean, I've been deeply entrenched in the in comedy in New York through most of my career. So I've seen people, and it's I mean, you guys know when you see a talent and you know this person is a talent, and then you see somebody else who is absolutely not a talent, who is trying their hardest, probably working harder than the person who has natural talent, and just won't make it. They don't have that stuff. And that seems to be amplified, especially in the New York comedy circuit. You just know immediately if somebody's got it or if somebody does not. And
there was a great story about Gilda Radner auditioning for Saturday Night Live. And it was all improv, and they threw them all together with partners. And she gets thrown together that first time with a guy who every time it's the same thing. Every time he never changes. And so one time they start a sketch and he's doing the same thing. And she says, "You again." I mean, you again.
Well, that's why she's considered one of the greats, because she can do that. She can morph into.
It's the ability to really be in the moment.
Right. I see that daily at my job now. I work on the Tonight Show, and I work with a lot of the comedians there who have gotten to that level, and I think it's whether or not you like the show. Some people are Jimmy Fallon fans, some people are not. There seem to be only two groups. There's nobody in the middle. You either really love him or you really hate him. Maybe I'm the only person who's in the middle, because I don't know which one. But
I join you there. I think he's a very talented guy. I'm not obsessed with him though. But
I know exactly. People ask me about sketches that were on recently, and I say I don't actually watch the show. I've never seen it. Cut that part out. I watch it every night obsessively, like a football.
The commercials especially, man.
Dave, I don't.
Oh my goodness.
I think you're going away from the truth here, Dave, for a second, because you've told me you love that show and you watch it every night, even though you work on it all day long. You come back and the first thing you do when you get home is look at it.
That's all I do. Is I'm like a football coach. I watch the replays over and over. That he zigged when he should have zagged.
What do you and what are you doing on the show as
on that show? I took my entrepreneurial spirit and I thrust it toward the Tonight Show, and I provide the teleprompter for that show.
Cool.
That said, I work with the comedians. I'm friends with them. I've known them for 13 years. So whereas I am not a writer on that show, because I do not actually want to die before 50.
I imagine the pressure is brutal.
It is. I also work on SNL as well, and I provide their teleprompters as well. And the pressure between those two shows on the writers themselves is so massive. I'm convinced that one of the writers is just going to implode and form a black hole on the earth at one point. You see it in
SNL
their
has always been
faces.
notorious as just
Yes.
a brutal working environment for writers
It's a-
because of what's funny.
Right. It's a boot camp. But really what it is, and a good way
On
to
the moon. It's a boot camp on the moon.
boot camp on it's something more inhospitable than the moon. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Venus, the center of
It's really Mercury. It's really hot, you know.
maybe Uranus, just to make it.
Yeah, that's it. But boom,
Uh,
there you go.
See, I told you, infantile dad humor is
Always works.
now that I'm a dad, I'm allowed to do that. So, but I can see it in their eyes. I can see it in their face. Sometimes they'll come into work on a Monday, and by Friday, it's they've lost weight. Their beards are patchy and overgrown. But that's the nature of comedy, especially in New York. It's just it's a place to come and get on the centrifuge. And
The strange thing is comedy never seems to attract happy people.
no, it does not.
It's weird. You never go to the comedy store or Laffy's and hear a guy going, "I'm really happy."
I don't know. I always thought
Here's my
Polydor
act.
was actually a really happy guy underneath. I
kind of think they may have started happy, but then as they got further into comedy, they realized, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
But isn't that true of anything? Isn't that true of producing a movie? I mean, listening to your podcast about the making of this movie, you guys went in, with a great idea and a great foundation, and then all of a sudden it was something else was thrust upon you, and you just had to work with it. Didn't you come out of it?
In one of the episodes of the podcast, I said during one of the interviews that if we were all Greek, this would be a tragedy.
Yes, you did say that. I love that.
And the strange thing was there is, and I say this as a student of dramatic literature. The thing about tragedy is circumstances overwhelm you. And then suddenly you are locked into place, and it doesn't matter what your good intentions are. Everything's going to hell. You're Macbeth. You're Hamlet. You're.
I actually thought I was Clytemnestra while we were making that movie.
I thought I had Clytemnestra. Oh no, that's something else.
Oh yeah, I think I'm on. Isn't that the big new drug that people are taking to lose weight?
Now it is. In Greek times, it was something else.
But your podcast currently proves the theory that tragedy plus
comedy.
equals comedy. Because here we are laughing about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm
glad we proved something.
You did. You've proved plenty to me. In fact, yes.
I have questions now. Now you started a company that handles teleprompters,
which is probably used on plenty of film set.
I find that's fascinating. That's more interesting to me than talking about comedy with you. There's that is so ripe with gosh. All right, so you do the Tonight Show. SNL.
I have seen some shit. Let's put it out there. I consider myself. You guys are masters of your craft. You know all the ins and outs of filmmaking. You know each and every department. You probably have had your hands. I think Gil's a pretty personable guy. I would imagine he shows up on set and wants to know what everybody's doing, right? When I provide a teleprompter to any kind of production, such as The Tonight Show, I get to sit quietly in the background and watch everything happen.
Oh boy.
And the only time anybody screams and yells at me is when the talent is pissed off at me. But
too fast, too slow.
And I also have this strange, almost telepathic connection with the talent themselves. And I actually was I was on this talk show on Bravo called Watch What Happens Live for a long time, which is Andy Cohen. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's
sure.
And the things that I got to see just by sitting there quietly And no,
Well,
and I'm listening.
well, okay, but without naming names, what is like one of the
I can tell stories. I can tell stories because for the most part, I have had nothing but positive experiences, including the Tonight Show, even though it's a cold chamber and it's something.
That's what this podcast is about. It's mostly happy experiences on set. And then,
and you know what? Even looking at your movie, I mean, Bordello of Blood is a cult phenomenon now. It's not, you know, you might have cried when it came out in the theaters, but it's there. It's in.
It was like shitting out a porcupine.
that's
if I may be a little poetic about it.
Well, I mean, so it's like sitting in New York traffic. Very similar.
Yeah. Same deal.
Or I feel like I'm eating the porcupine every day and then waiting for it to be shit out.
Sorry. I mean, are there any particularly memorable, you know, when good collaboration goes bad situations that have happened as you sat there in the dark?
Oh my God, yes.
Watching the world go to hell around you.
I've seen mostly on road shows. You know, touring with Bette, I was out in Las Vegas with her for her last run out there for about 3 years. So I got to experience not only the giant metaphor that is Las Vegas, but I also got to see, you know, a seasoned performer, one that, and Las Vegas up until about 2008, when the big crash happened, was known as the place that performers go to die, really. It's a lot different now. It's there's a lot bigger acts, but so Bette was trying to undo that. She was saying, listen, I may be old, but I'm at the top of my game, and you know, here you are, Las Vegas. Here, I'm gonna give you a proper you know, performance, just like a tour. I've seen people lose their minds. I've seen people, you know, you can't talk about entertainment at all without bringing up some sort of a drug episode that has ruined people. I haven't gotten to that part of your podcast, but I'm sure it's coming. Sylvester Stallone is in there, so something has to happen wacky.
Well, I think of Joel Silver as our drug.
Well, you know, you kind of skirted around that, and you did a fantastic job of skirting around that. And I didn't want to say anything, so you said it, but it kind of smacked of, you know, something extra going on.
No, it's funny. I think of Joel in kind of this is going to sound weird, a Brokeback Mountain kind of a way. You know, it's but when you hear the stories of everyone working with Joel, and it's just it's crazy. But there are an awful lot of us who would work with him again because we just can't quit that man.
That's funny. So more of a Stockholm syndrome.
That's probably more like what it is.
You identify with your captor. Okay.
You got it. Well spotted. Well spotted.
Yeah, no, I've seen people collapse under the pressure. Certainly. My last job, like I said, Watch What Happens Live. I remember being out on location in LA, and you know, one of the comedy writers who I respect immensely, he just had a break. He just couldn't handle it anymore.
When you say a break, so like he had an emotional meltdown?
I would say it was a little more than an emotional meltdown, if that was possible. Just a physical, emotional, just break.
He was angry? Or he was weeping?
Angry. There were words that were spoken that didn't quite make sense.
Let's go this way. Who was he angry at?
Well, if I were a therapist, I would say himself, maybe his parents.
That's all of us. But who was he picking on set?
I think it was probably the production staff. You know, namely, maybe the talent. I don't want to throw the talent under the bus because Andy Cohen has been the best thing that has
Hey,
happened.
no, look, we're just telling you on a story, but somebody got angry at Andy for whatever reason, and man, he raged, and it produced an incident on set that was apparently
in the
memorable.
control room, which was extremely memorable. And like I said, I'm still friends with this gentleman today, so I don't want to name names, but it was definitely something. And this was a live to tape in front of a huge audience at the I'm going to get the name of it, not the Wiltern.
The Wiltern.
Wiltern in LA.
Wiltern, yeah. So a huge audience.
Oh boy,
waiting for things to go on, and there's just a meltdown happening, and I'm looking around going, can I do anything? You want me to
oh boy,
on stage? I can I can. You want me to write the script? I'll write the script, but I can't get Andy's voice as well as this guy. So
so was he threatening to leave?
Oh yeah, no, I think he had left, even though he was still there. It was.
Oh over. Yeah. He's checked out and he's raging, and still the show has got to go on. I wouldn't
call it raging. It was just I'm done here. I can't. There is nothing else I can do, even though I have an entire job to do. Later today, I'm going to just disassociate from reality. And
so Alan, it sounds like sort of like you and I on almost everything we've done.
I was going to say that's when the producers stepped in and took over the show, and that's why there are producers in the world. That's why they're professional producers in the world to save things from going full Titanic. It went half Titanic. It was like the front fell off and the back was still floating. So I've seen that happen on more than one occasion.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Not with this particular gentleman, with various writers. Like I said, I have worked on SNL. I have worked on the Tonight Show for a very long time. And
look, when as we know, Showbiz is incredibly unreliable as an economic partner. That you have a business that keeps you there is genius.
It's crazy.
Utter genius, man.
It's a little bit of genius, maybe, and a little bit of batshit craziness. Because I keep I keep going after it, no matter what.
Whatever keeps your hand in the game. I
love it. I love it. I've loved film since I was a child. So I grew up. I was a teenager. Sorry, when I was watching Tales from the Crypt. So that that continued.
I was an infant, so
you were an infant making then I'm jealous. That's another thing with comedy in New York, by the way. Nobody likes a young man coming up. Everybody's seasoned. Everybody knows more. Oh, my kids have arrived home. I have a dog gate. I don't know if you could see it up there to keep them out.
No worries. No worries. As you stand here today, what are you working on next?
I'm still at the Tonight Show now until they drag me kicking and screaming from there. And as a matter of fact, I'm playing softball. I don't know where that came from. I'm the least athletic human on the planet, but I'm playing on their softball team next week. So I'm in.
You are part of that crew, man. It's written in stone.
Is that part of the Broadway Show League? Do you play in Central Park?
We do play in Central Park. I don't think we're part of that league, but we are playing the Daily Show. It's 2 comedy shows.
That sounds awesome. Okay, so
you would be surprised how serious they are for a bunch of comedians. Yeah.
When I first got to LA, I played on Sunday afternoons with it was a pickup softball game with a bunch of stand-ups, including guys like Jerry Seinfeld played in that.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. Oh well, he
Tom Arnold played in that game, and it was hilarious. First of all, because everyone did Vin Scully.
Oh.
So every play of every single at bat, every pitch, there was at least 3 guys doing Vin Scully.
R.I.P. Rest in peace.
Anyway, but yes, they're incredibly well. Comedians are, in addition to being neurotic, they're incredibly competitive.
They are incredibly competitive, which is which I wonder, you had mentioned that you wanted to go into entertainment for comedy writing. So is that correct? Is that
well, yeah, to me, Tales from the Crypt was always black comedy. That was what I loved about
absolutely.
What I loved about the EC
Speaking
Comics
of genius,
was
yes.
you know, well, EC Comics and Mad Magazine all came from the same place, from you know, the world of Bill Gaines and all those creative people that he surrounded himself with, and that he was kind of like the creative Papa Bear.
Right. Yeah.
That was really his genius. He knew how to make the creative people of a particular stripe feel incredibly nurtured.
Right. And that's extremely important, which doesn't seem to happen very often these days. But but you know, speaking of the Stockholm syndrome, it does feel as though once a person is entrenched in this the comedy atmosphere, they, despite how maddening it is, and just it will break your soul and break your personality and your physical. Like I said, people have sallow cheeks at the end of the week. You don't ever want to leave it, or you can't. It's you know, I hate to use the cliche Godfather 3, but you know, try to get out and it pulls you back in. Is it that, or do you just never leave? You just stay there forever, and that's it, and you die a comedian. I wonder.
we mentioned the word tragic earlier, and there's something to it there. And hey, David, it looks like you got things to do, man.
Forgive me, I'm going to pour some apple cider.
Hey,
we can take a commercial break.
Been there, done that.
Stu Leonard's apple cider, best you could possibly get in the tri-state area.
Easily the best.
This is my budding comedian, Elliot here. We'll say hi. All right.
Hey, Elliot, how you doing?
Get out of here, yeah.
Best gig I ever had was being a parent. Which actually, you know, our co-producer in this venture is Dads from the Crypt.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I did start listening.
At the very least, we have just made Dads, Jason and Mondo and all the guys at Dads from the Crypt happy. So our work here is done.
I would like to join Dads from the Crypt because, like I said, I was obsessed with that show when it was on, and Gil actually directed one of my favorite episodes.
The Dads from the Crypt, you know, the whole thing is they review all the episodes of Tales from the Crypt and they give parenting advice.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's me in a nutshell.
That was when Jason first approached me and he told me what Dads from the Crypt did. I thought, that is so funny. How can I not want to do whatever you want to do?
See, to me, it makes total sense. To me, I say, yeah, that makes sense to me. That's right.
Yeah, of course. We're men of a certain age. If we watched it coming up in the 90s, and we all, a bunch of us have kids now. I mean, all my friends. Let me get onto the Tales from the Crypt smoke blowing for a second. You know, my friends and I would watch. I mean, that would be all we discussed. Coming back to, I think I was in high school at the time. Was the episode that was on? I don't remember. Was it on Saturday or Sunday?
Fridays.
Swinging
close enough. It was
one day of the week. I've had one of 7 chance. So it was on Fridays. Okay, so we'd come in on Monday and we would discuss the episode at length. So basically, Dads from the Crypt stole my idea. We weren't fathers. Yeah, we were also giving child rearing advice as teenagers.
I've always taken my parenting advice from the Crypt Keeper. You know, I
was going to say, when we were doing that show, we thought we were giving parenting advice.
Yeah. Hey, I say to my kid all the time, hey, be careful what you wish for, kid. You might just get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You say it with
Yeah.
that.
I can't do the laugh, so I
That's a shame.
Dave, this has been a delightful experience talking to
Well,
you.
it's been great talking to you guys. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. So
Oh, well, thank you. And you know, as Gil said, that you got to meet my friend Dave. He's hilarious, and he's been writing and working in the business. And hey, you know, he knows comedy, and you know, in basically
comedy, I can tell you that.
Hey,
it's a hard business. Don't plan on getting into it and coming out looking like Brad Pitt. You know.
Well, you should see what Brad Pitt used to look like. He was really pretty.
Oh, is that right? Is he in comedy now? Is that
yeah? Anyway.
No, yes. Anyway, thanks for having me, guys.
Pleasure was ours.
Delightful seeing you, and I'll catch up with you in New York, I hope.
I hope so. So. Pastrami Queen.
Yeah, I'm there.
Don't go making promises you ain't going to keep.
I will keep that promise. You can't get between me and a good pastrami sandwich. I'm sorry.
And we will see all of you next time on the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. The How Not to Make a Movie podcast is executive produced by me, Alan Katz, by Gil Adler, and by Jason Stein. Our artwork was done by the amazing Jody Webster, and Jason Jody, along with Mando, are all the hosts of the fun and informative Dads from the Crypt podcast. Follow them for what my old pal the Crypt Keeper would have called terrific Crypt content.